Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mark, and I'm back to talk about fantasy football again. So, in this video, what I'm going to be doing is a actual live draft. I'm going to be doing this league here. I want to do a 14-team league, but unfortunately, ESPN doesn't offer that stuff, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm doing a 12-team PPR league. This is going to be a team that I'm going to follow throughout the season and kind of let you know like how things are going. So that way, I could show you like some of the moves that I'm making on my team and what I'm considering. So that way, you get advice from the perspective of somebody that's also playing the game and what kind of starts and sits and trades and all that they're going to do. So this draft is going to enter the draft room in about 45 seconds, and we'll get started on this. So some news and some questions that I'm going to try to answer along the way. So as you guys all know, Andrew Luck surprisingly retired. I didn't see that coming at all. Now the Colts lose their franchise quarterback, and there's a lot of uncertainty about what their future is going to look like. So how is this going to affect them in fantasy? Well, first of all, if you already drafted Andrew Luck, you just have the fortunate reality is that you have to cut him, and that happened. But it's not over for you if you did take Andrew Luck, because quarterbacks are generally pretty replaceable. And thankfully, with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback, they actually have a pretty good one. I don't think Jacoby Brissett is going to be worth drafting, but he is a good sleeper option to consider, especially since he is a guy that is known for also being able to run the ball. He has a big arm. He did not play very well 2 years ago when he filled in for Andrew Luck, but this is a guy that supposedly has a good rapport with his teammates, and people think pretty highly of him. So it could be a pretty good pick for you, to be honest, if you take him. So I'm just telling you that because that might not be a bad alternative to consider, but there are some other guys that are on waivers like Josh Allen, maybe Mitch Trubisky, that are also pretty good pickups for you to replace him with. The other players on the Colts, I think, are going to get downgraded. But be careful because T.Y. Hilton is probably going to drop significantly. But still take him if he goes in like the third or fourth round. But I think you got to significantly downgrade like Devin Funchess, Paris Campbell, Eric Ebron, but I'm already not very high on Ebron anyway. So this could potentially help Marlon Mack, though, because I could see them becoming more of a run-based offense, especially with the type of stuff that he has. So the draft just opened. It's still got another 2 minutes until we start, but I'm picking 10th. So I'm going to have to do some playing around here and figure out who I want on my team. So some other news. Lamar Miller tore his ACL, so that is also big. I hope you didn't draft Lamar Miller. If you did, then that's the same situation. It's not over for you. There's some good waiver pickup potential. If Duke Johnson is on your waivers, you have to take him. But he probably won't be. But this significantly upgrades him because it's basically his backfield at this point. But then after that, you have a collection of other talented players, and you want to consider them. Demaria Crockett, I think that's how you say his name. Tywan Johnson, Karan Higdon. These are all unproven players, but they have an opportunity because Duke Johnson, with the Cleveland Browns, he only has ever rushed for I think 440 yards in a season. So he's mostly a PPR type player, but can he be a 3-down back? There's a lot of questions about that. So they might give some of the other guys some opportunities if Duke Johnson doesn't step up. So just consider that as you're going through this, because that could be some pretty good value for you, especially towards the end towards the end of the season. These guys might kind of start to fill into their roles a little more. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. And then some other questions that I've had that are good that I wanted to address. Audie had a question about stacking in terms of what you do with wide receivers and quarterback pairings. So, for instance, if you get Devontae Adams and then draft Aaron Rodgers, or DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson, or Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. And I'm telling you, there are, I like stacking if you have a running quarterback, because basically it gives you the opportunity to run the ball with those type of players. But just be careful, because the reason I didn't take Matt Ryan when I had Julio Jones in that other draft is because Matt Ryan doesn't give you anything from a rushing perspective. If I would go with the pairing, I'd go with a running quarterback like Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, Rodgers, and Adams, like Tyreek Hill slash Kelsey with Mahomes, because those guys are a threat to run for a touchdown. And like you want to cover yourself on the basis of the different touchdown opportunities in a stack. Like Hopkins and Watson, like especially now that they don't have a proven running back really, like it's going to be, Hopkins is going to have a lot of receiving touchdowns and maybe Watson could rush it a lot. But there's the reason you don't want to do stuff like Big Ben and Juju, for example, is because James Conner is going to take a lot of touchdowns from them. So you have to be like very careful when you pick stacks, but it really gives you a ton of benefit, especially if those guys are both clicking and it's obvious that those guys have a lot of rapport together. Then you could really get a lot of benefit from having a stack. But don't go out of your way to do it, basically, is what I'm saying. So, but good question, though. So the draft has started now. The first 3 picks have gone by, actually now 4, and it was Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Zeke, kind of surprising, and then Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm picking 10th, and it's not bad. I wouldn't have necessarily wanted that, but I got the 10th pick and the 15th pick in this draft, and kind of happy about that. So the guys I'm targeting around here are Devontae Adams. Juju is there as well, and then there's some interesting running back and receiver options that are kind of along this line too. So I would consider some of these players as people that I want on my team, but I'm going to kind of wait and see what happens here for a little bit. And one of the players that is coming up at 15 actually for me is Travis Kelce. That leads me into the other question that Audie asked about why are tight ends going so high. So last year tight ends, there was 3 elite ones that were putting up a ton of points. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and then George Kittle, who's kind of a more underrated player, who's bursting onto the scene now. Those guys, it was them, and then it was a huge drop off after that because people were getting hurt / overrated, like Greg Olsen or Jimmy Graham. Like, so there's people like that, and so because of that, people are prioritizing more on the tight ends, and I understand why you would do that because there's a lot of you can really like cover yourself with a good tight end, but when you do that, you run the risk that you also lose an elite receiver, elite running back. So I'm not the biggest fan of going out of my way to take a tight end, but given on players available, I might consider that, and I might consider Travis Kelce here, depending on what happens with that. So the 6th pick just went, and they took Michael Thomas. He's going to be good. I was a little surprised that they kind of took him as the receiver over like Adams or some of the running backs. But be interesting to see what happens. So, but yeah. So and then same with Kittle and Ertz. Like those are going to be good players. But there's some other good sleeper tight ends to consider. Like O.J. Howard is one. Like if you really want to go like with a late round sleeper, like T.J. Hawkinson could be one. He's going at the very end of drafts. Some other ones off the top of my head that are interesting are like David Njoku out of Cleveland, but he still needs to like prove me a little more to actually be like in the elite range. But yeah, so tight ends, like if you could get one of those top 3, that would be good, but I mean don't go out of your way to do it because you can still get some other options, or you can even play the stream game because there could be some that emerge throughout as the season goes along. Could be good value. So next was Le'Veon Bell. This draft is going a little slow, but then again, this is a live draft for real. This is going to be like an actual like team that's going to be like a bunch of players competing in it. So like, see how it goes. So Chumbly is the guy picking right now. He's picking number 8. So the top rated player left is David Johnson and then Devontae Adams. And then the next one that would fall to me in that order is Julio Jones. And I would probably take him. I might consider Juju Smith-Schuster too. This is kind of the same dilemma that I had in that other video of who to take. But yeah, so this is going to be my team, and it's also going to be your team too. So comment what you want this team to be named, and I will, whichever one I like the most, I will put as the team name, and that'll be this team name throughout the season. And by the way, if you include any kind of team name that involves some Nicolas Cage pun, then that obviously like gives you some bonus points and makes it more likely for me to pick it. But I'm just saying, you can come up with whatever you want as long as it's appropriate and there's no like cuss words or anything, because I don't do that kind of stuff online. So, but anyway, yeah. So come up with a name and comment, and I'll use that potentially for my team this season. So took David Johnson. So I'm really hoping this guy doesn't take Devontae Adams, the next guy that's up, and then it'll be me at number 10. There's also some So basically right now it's Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Odell, Tyreek Hill, Juju. So I'm basically debating between Adams, Julio, and Juju, and they took Adams. So, and this leads me to the question of who to take. So, and the thing is that at my running back, I'm really considering James Conner at 15. So I wouldn't want to have both Steelers, so I'm going to go with Julio Jones at number 10, and that's going to be my draft pick. So I just drafted Julio Jones. So Julio Jones is on my team. So like if you have a cool name, like don't use Game of Jones. I've seen that so many times and it's stupid. Like come with something more creative than that. But like yeah, come with a team name in the comments and I'll use that as this team name. So you don't want me to come up with one because I'm not very creative. So but yeah, so after that, Julio Jones went, and then they took Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, so both the Chiefs are gone. I actually would have really considered both of them at 15, so Todd Gurley went. That's a good sleeper, but a lot of question marks there. And I could potentially get Juju still because nobody's taken him, and now Saints is the guy on the clock. I think it was like Rogue Saints or something dumb. And now, like, he took Juju, I believe. Yeah, I did. So, all right. So a couple questions here. I could take Odell. I could take Darth Helmet. Don't really want to do that. I could take Joe Mixon or I could take James Conner. And this basically leads into the exact same thing as this other video where I said that, like, in a PPR league, like, I might consider Joe Mixon over James Conner. But, I mean, I don't even really know. Like, Cincinnati just looks so bad so far. Like, so, especially like James Conner is like an underrated value there. Like, I'm going to go with him. I really like James Conner's outlook. So I'm going to take James Conner as my secondary running back. Or my second draft pick. He's going to be my number one running back. So I got James Conner and Julio Jones on my team. And I'm pretty happy about that. I honestly would have wanted Juju over James Conner if for some reason he took like one of these other players. But Conner's all right, so I've got Julio Jones and James Conner. So that means that like most likely what I'm going to try to do is get Jalen Samuels at some point at the end of the draft because I want his handcuff. So that's just basically showing some of the strategy that I'm going to do. Just keep in mind, like this draft is longer, so I may not have the space to get this all done in one video. So I'm probably going to have 2 videos here. And then might not even get through all that because unfortunately because I'm not using any professional equipment with anything like that. I'm just using my phone. So I have like 54 minutes of available space and try to get through as much as I can with this, but we'll see how it goes. So next it was Odell, and then Chumbley took Darth Helmet, and then Dalvin Cook, and then Joe Mixon. I'm kind of surprised Dalvin Cook went before Joe Mixon, but it honestly kind of makes sense with just how bad the Bengals have been. But Dalvin Cook is like, he's basically just been injured his whole career. Like, I'm kind of not very high on him because of that. So, yeah, it's going to be a while until he gets back to me. Basically, like, my next pick is going to be at 34. So I'm going to go ahead and start looking at guys that I want at 34. I've got my notes here. And the guy that I really want, that I'm going to try to take, is Aaron Jones, who's sitting right there for me at 34. That would give me a great running back. This team is almost coming together almost exactly like that other team that I made. Nick Chubb went and then Keenan Allen went. But I'm still looking for my picks around that range as well as Chris Carson. I'm not going to do that, especially third round. That would not be smart. Josh Jacobs is interesting. George Kittle I'm actually going to put as my second favorite player that's available in that range, but probably not likely to fall to me. Melvin Gordon is 26. I would consider him if he fell that far, but still a risk though. And then some other guys like Damian Williams, I'm not going to do that. Adam Thielen, I would consider that. He's going down in his rankings though. Kenny Galladay there as well. Chris Godwin, and now I'm like 34 for one pick, and then I'm going to be going 39, I believe. So that's Robert Woods, Kenny Galladay, Chris Godwin, that range, and then Patrick Mahomes. I would consider that as well. I think I might do that if in the 4th round if he stays to me, but more than likely somebody's going to reach for him. But then again, like, he's not going like number 7 overall like that other draft, which was just mind-boggling. I couldn't believe that. I'm just that stuff still like makes me upset just like thinking about it. Like I just couldn't even believe it. But anyway, so and then there's some other running backs that are basically overrated, like Mark Ingram, James White. James White in PPR isn't terrible, but so I'm gonna basically kind of be like looking for Aaron Jones. If Melvin Gordon falls to me, that would be very interesting. But there's still a lot of like question marks about like whether he's gonna play. But either way, I'm gonna try to get Justin Jackson because that's a sleeper that's going at the end of the draft. So just some ideas. All right, so while we got some time, let's go ahead and answer another question. And that's basically like in the first round, like who do you take after those top three? Like when you get to pick number 4. So top 3, it's pretty much Saquon Barkley, and then kind of going either way, but like Christian McCaffrey, Kamara. I prefer Christian McCaffrey personally. But so what I would do after you get past those 3 is so let's say that Zeke and Melvin Gordon stay held out and they don't sign a contract. Then the next pick I would take DeAndre Hopkins, and then I would go Devontae Adams. And this is for a standard league. So obviously this puts even more priority on those receivers if you're in a PPR league. And then I would go Julio Jones. So notice like before I get to like Zeke Elliott, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, I would take those 3 receivers next. Then I would go Zeke Elliott, and then I would go Michael Thomas, actually, the wide receiver from the Saints. And then I would go, after that I go Le'Veon Bell, and then David Johnson. So like the basic purpose of this is like there are some elite running backs, but there's also some elite receivers that are very consistent. So don't reach for running backs that are going to have question marks like David Johnson, and because you potentially run the risk that you're going to like get like no value, and you could have a receiver and get a running back like that's going to be like lower underrated value for you later on. So actually, it's now coming to me, and Aaron Jones is still there, and I think I'm going to get him. So let's see what happened here. So Mike Evans went, and then Julian Edelman. That's way too high for Julian Edelman. Leonard Fournette, that's interesting. Devontae Freeman went. George Kittle went next. So again, like placing priority, especially on Kittle because he's a guy that's going to get a lot of volume on his team. Chris Carson, that was not a good pick. Kerryon Johnson, underrated value. That's a guy that you want in the 3rd round. So like, get a receiver target while you can. Melvin Gordon, I was interested in him. Adam Thielen, Zach Ertz went, and then Damian Williams. So the guy reached around, and the one that's left for me that I want, who's conveniently still there, is Aaron Jones. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones, and I'm happy about that because, and this goes to what I talked about. Like, so if you're a number 4 pick, for example, and you're trying to decide between like Zeke Elliott, who's still suspended, or not suspended, sorry, that was a few years ago. If he's still holding out, he hasn't made up his mind what he's going to do, and then he and then like you don't know if he's going to report, and then same thing with Melvin Gordon. Then like get a good receiver because I took Julio Jones at 10 instead of like James Conner, who was the next available running back, and I still got him later. And then I got another good running back who's underrated and arguably could be top 10 in Aaron Jones. So, like, keep that stuff in mind. And I really wanted Patrick Mahomes as that next pick, but the guy that was right after me took him. So I'm going to probably divert more towards one of these receivers now instead of that. Because I would have taken Patrick Mahomes at that position at 39. So there's Patrick Mahomes and then Derrick Henry went. So the guys that are left are Josh Jacobs. And I might consider that, but I'm not very high on Oakland's line. Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp. So those are basically the ones that I'm going to be picking between. And I'm probably going to go Kenny Golladay most likely because I like their quarterback situation over Tampa Bay's with Chris Godwin. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking at. If Josh Jacobs still doesn't get drafted, though, I might consider that, but I really kind of would like to fill that other receiver position a little more than take a risk on a rookie like that. So, yeah. So I hope that answered your question. So, and then even if you're in a PPR league, then you want to prioritize those receivers more than the running backs. So, yeah. So just keep that in mind, especially in those early rounds like that. It's good to get like good receivers too. Don't let them slip for running backs that are reaches. That's personally what I would want to do. So, yeah, so this draft is continuing along. Josh Jacobs did get taken with the next pick, so it's not to that point. And then, so I'll go with the next pick. It's going to be number 38. Somebody's picking. He's probably going to. The guy that would be next is Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods. So I would not prefer those two Rams receivers because they're going to be splitting each other's touches, whereas Kenny Golladay is likely to get all the touches. And then they took David Montgomery. You could have gotten him in the next round, man. I don't know why you would do that. That was not a good pick. So I'm going to take Kenny Golladay, and I like him at that position. So I like that. I'm going to take Kenny Golladay with the next pick. And yeah, so I've got a good I've got two receivers and two running backs. I got first round I took Julio Jones. The next round I took James Conner. Then I took Aaron Jones, and then now I got Kenny Golladay. So I'm happy with that. Those are guys that are all like pretty big focuses of those offenses. They got a lot of opportunity, and could have very good seasons. So the next picks that I'm going to be taking are going to be around pick number 58. And just looking over there, so AJ Green is there. That's interesting. But I'm going to probably cue Marlon Mack first because, like I said earlier, I like that running back potential now that Andrew Luck isn't there and they might be focusing more on running. Calvin Ridley, I like him. I'm going to cue him. So Josh Gordon, don't do that. I already talked about that. There's a lot of risks there. AJ Green, maybe if he falls. I am really interested in Darius Geis. I'm going to put him on there as well. I'm going to do the same with Duke Johnson, who's right there at 64. That's a very underrated value. O.J. Howard, not O.J. Simpson. Philip Lindsay, and Deshaun Watson is also around that range as well, where I might be drafting. So, anyway. So more things to comment on. So, I'm wearing a Pink Floyd shirt today. This is my favorite band. So, comment what your favorite Pink Floyd song is. I'm just curious about that because it seems like most people know like Another Brick in the Wall as their primary Pink Floyd song because they hate school or something. I don't even know. But that song is so overrated, man. There's so many other better songs, especially ones that were never released as singles. So I'm curious what you guys think is your favorite song. So comment that. So like I said, comment if you have a good team name for this team. And then comment what your favorite Pink Floyd song is, because I'm wearing my Dark Side of the Moon shirt. And yeah. So I want to hear what your opinions are. If you've never heard them, then you need to listen to them because you're missing out, man. But yeah. All right, so what happened next? So after it was Kenny Golladay, it was Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, T.Y. Hilton. I think that's good value for T.Y. Hilton in the 4th round. And he even fell in his ranking too because of that Andrew Luck retirement. Then Stephon Diggs went. Then Chris Godwin went. That's a good sleeper right there. James White could be good value, but I don't really know what the Patriots are going to do with him if they might start using him less. Mark Ingram went. I think that's a very risky pick. Tyler Boyd, I like that, but then again, there's also the offense doesn't look very good in general. Cooper Kupp, I like that, but he's also injured, and then he's recovering from a knee injury, so that's a lot of risk there. Then Alshon Jeffrey, and then I've got 8 picks before me, and there's a lot of interesting people left. So Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, DJ Moore, those are the ones that are at the top of the board right now. So, yeah, and I'm continuing with this draft here, and just so you know, this video might cut off, as I've already explained, and but I'll clue this in multiple parts, and that way you can kind of see the general progress of how this thing goes. Once again, if you missed out for some reason or another, I took Julio Jones as the first pick, and then I took James Conner. Then I took Aaron Jones. So I got 2 pretty good running backs at those values, and then I got Kenny Golladay. But I'm going to make sure that I definitely get some handcuffs there. I'm going to get Jalen Samuels for sure, and then probably try to find some of these other guys like Tony Pollard, who is mind-blowingly not even considered right now. I mean, everybody knows about Todd Gurley's knee injury. They're taking Darrell Henderson, but like the bigger risk right now is like, is Zeke Elliott even going to sign? And it's just like the people just don't even like in that league I was telling you about, like in that last video where it's like the guys are taking like Aaron Rodgers number 8. They didn't even have Tony Pollard like on a team. Like the guy that took Zeke Elliott with the number 9 pick, he didn't even get Tony Pollard. So I just picked him up off waivers for like absolutely nothing. So if Zeke doesn't play, like that's huge value for me there, and I just got him off waivers. So make sure like if you've already drafted that you like check on that stuff, because that's going to be like very important as the season goes along, especially when news like this comes out. So Tyler Lockett went after Alshon Jeffrey, and then it was Kenyon Drake, and then it was Mike Williams, DJ Moore, and Allen Robinson. So there's 3 picks ahead of me. I want to go Marlon Mack here because I want another running back, but I mean, there's also some very good ones that are around there as well. And they took Sony Michel when they could have had Duke Johnson. Like that just doesn't make any sense. Calvin Ridley went. So like, the question is like, do I take Duke Johnson or do I take Marlon Mack? That's a tough one. It's going to be an interesting choice there, but I might go Duke. Oh, and he did take Marlon Mack, so that probably means I'm going to go Duke. I might consider Darius Geis, but like, it's just I have a lot of questions about Washington in general, like what they're going to look like, and like, is Adrian Peterson still going to be there? So I'm going to go with Duke Johnson here. And then maybe if AJ Green falls me at 63 in 5 more picks, I might do that. But Duke Johnson is going to be my flex for now. And I'm kind of amazed, actually, that he's, like, at that point, especially in PPR. Like, he's a very good PPR player. So, yeah. But then again, like, AJ Green at this point, I already have my starting positions filled. I might consider that. But, I mean, I think people are passing on him even more, though, because of that foot. So, the AJ Green just got taken, so that's not going to be a question for me anyway. So, I got a couple more picks till I go. So after AJ Green, they took Josh Gordon. So I'm going to be looking at Darius Geis first, or possibly OJ Howard. Yeah, that's a question. I would probably go OJ Howard over Darius Geis, to be honest. Matt Ryan. Why would you take Matt Ryan over Deshaun Watson? I'm kind of amazed at that. Like, that is like very interesting. Like, why somebody would take Matt Ryan over Watson and Rodgers. But I don't know, because he doesn't run the ball. Like, those other 2 are running quarterbacks. Like, they give you a lot more value potentially. Then they took Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay is interesting, like what that backfield is going to be like. I'll kind of get to that in a minute because it's a good topic of debate. So I could pick between Sammy Watkins is the highest rated player, but that would not be a good pick. Tariq Cohen. Could be a good player, but there's like question marks there. Darius Geis, Evan Ingram, OJ Howard. So that's a lot of debate there, but I'm going to go with OJ Howard because I like him slightly more over Evan Ingram. I think OJ Howard has a good ceiling. Darius Geis is also very intriguing to me, but I'm not going to go with him because the team is not really conducive to fantasy football. So I'm going to get OJ Howard. And now I've got my tight end filled. I've got 2 running backs, 2 receivers. Well, 3 running backs, but one of them's in a flex. And then 2 receivers and tight end OJ Howard. So I pretty much got my skill player position starter set. And next I will be going at pick number 82. So Phillip Lindsay versus Royce Freeman. So that's an interesting question. And there's a lot of people saying that like this year is going to be Royce Freeman's year. Phillip Lindsay, like, you know, he was just a flash in the pan from last year. And personally, like, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion yet because Phillip Lindsay was a Pro Bowler. And, like, I mean, yes, he is a smaller back and there's risks that he's going to get injured. But, like, when you're in a PPR league like this, like, I could see them, and they tried to do this to a degree where they work Royce Freeman in on the early downs and give Phillip Lindsay the third down responsibilities, but it didn't work. Like Royce Freeman has had his opportunities, especially with Philip Lindsay kind of injured down the end, and he didn't really show a lot. So, like, I just have like questions about like what exactly he's gonna do this year to next year, or last year to this year. I mean, I still would go for Philip Lindsay personally, because I think that's just overall like why change what's working? So unless anything changes, I'm still prioritize Philip Lindsay over Royce Freeman. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested. Excuse me. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in Royce Freeman though, because if anything happens to Philip Lindsay, a ton of opportunity there as the lead back. And there's this. I think there's just so much value you can get out of that. So I personally would not forget about Royce Freeman. Like, he's a good guy to consider later in the draft like this, but Philip Lindsay is still a very good player, and he's going to catch a lot of passes as well. All right, so it was O.J. Howard was what I took, and then somebody took Tevin Coleman. I don't know why they took him that high. And then Tariq Cohen went. Like, you should have taken Cohen over Coleman, man. That's not a good pick. Deshaun Watson kind of fell there. I didn't actually expect that to happen. But, you know, if I had taken Hopkins, I would have taken Watson by now, because that's a very good stack. Kind of goes back to Audie's question from earlier. Evan Ingram, Jarvis Landry, and then Aaron Rodgers for once goes where he should in the 6th round. I think that's all right for Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. Darius Geis just went, so that was the guy that I would have wanted to take, but that probably wasn't going to happen for me anyway. But interesting draft. Like, these are actually smart players, so I'm kind of looking forward to this season, because these guys are not reaching for quarterbacks. And I think it'd be interesting to see like what happens as the rest of this draft unfolds with those other quarterbacks. So, I picked number 83, the one that intrigues me the most around that range. And interestingly, 83 is Royce Freeman, the one I've just been talking about. But the one I like more is Austin Eckler, who's right there at 82. And I would consider that, especially since this is a PPR league. And then Baker Mayfield is there at 87. That would be an interesting take as well. I don't know if I would do that right now, though. Emmanuel Sanders, that's okay, but I mean, there's injury questions there. D.D. Westbrook and Robbie Anderson are both good sleeper receivers to consider if they fall to me there. Peyton Barber is a no. Nyheim Hines, especially now that Luck is gone, that's a no. Rashad Penny is interesting. Baker got taken. So, yeah, I think that's a little bit of a reach, but not bad. So it was after Aaron Rodgers, it was Darius Geis, Miles Sanders, Hunter Henry, Baker Mayfield. So now, there's